Hello, so for this recording, I will be giving an overview of the Amazon PPC process for newly launched products. This will not be an in-depth video and I will try to be efficient with the time. This video will be recorded in one go, so there's only one take and I apologize for that in advance. I will not edit this anymore, so even though I will be fast in my pacing, I will make sure that it will still be intuitive and insightful. So I will be covering important areas of the process. The first one is keyword research. The next one will be the creation of a keyword master list. And the last one would be to launch a manual keyword targeting campaign using a bulk file, still under the context of a newly launched product. So the reason why we are doing this, and I apologize again in advance for the orientation of my camera, and I am utilizing two screens, so I will be navigating between the two screens as I go along with my discussion. So going back to what I was saying, so for a newly launched product, and the reason why we're doing keyword research first is because we already have top competitors that are dominating the product niche. So in this case, it would be cell phone automobile cradles. So let's say that our product is a car phone mount. So we need to go to the Amazon bestseller list. And in terms of the function and form and price, our product, or we need to get the essence of our top competitors, and we need to consider those three. So the essence that we will gather, the products that correspond to those essence need to be similar to ours in terms of function, form, and price. So let's say that we are already able to gather the 10 ASINs. And I'm using 10 ASINs because I will be using Helium 10 Cerebro. And Helium 10 Cerebro is the only tool that I know that would allow up to 10 ASINs simultaneously. So what Cerebro does is it pulls up by pasting the ASINs. It will pull up all the relevant keywords that those ASINs are using. But since I don't have the paid version of Cerebro, I'm only limited to one ASIN. So let's say that we will be getting this particular ASIN because this is related to our product. So let's pretend that I was able to paste all of the 10 ASINs. So we need to run and get the keywords from all of those 10 ASINs. All right. Again, let's pretend that I have the 10 ASINs and I was able to pull up the data, the necessary data from those 10 ASINs. So from those top 10 ASINs, we were able to gather the relevant keywords that they are using. And we also have the search volume as well as the Cerebro IQ score. And then we could export that to a spreadsheet. So again, since I don't have the paid version of Cerebro or Helium 10, I prepared a mock data, but it's for a different product. So let's say that we are analyzing or doing keyword research for Oreo cookies. So this is the mock data. So what I will do now is I will do a competitor keyword analysis. So what we're trying to achieve here is what are the keywords that our top competitors are using that enable them to rank or to appear on the first page of the search results in Amazon. So what I will do is I would delete this one because I don't need this one. Retain this column, the search volume, and then delete this one up until the position rank column. And then I also don't need this 4. And then I could insert a column and we would name that column as relevancy, right? And we will do a count if. autofill that, and then we could do a filter from largest to smallest, and then what we want is 4 and above. All right, so what we're trying to do with this calculation is, or the reason why we did this first calculation of COUNTIF is to know how many of our competitors are appearing on the first page of the search results for this particular keyword. So we can see that for the first keyword, cookies Oreo, we can see that 7 of our competitors, these ASINs, will appear on the first page when customers use the keyword cookies Oreo. Then after that, we need to insert about 5 rows above. And then on the third row of the first ASIN or of the first competitor ASIN, what we need to do is do another COUNTIF. Drag it to the right for the rest of the ASINs. And then what we're trying to do for the second calculation that we just did is we are trying to find out how many keywords this particular competitor, like for this one, for the instance, this particular competitor is using that enables it to appear on the first page. So as we can see, we have about 161 keywords. So when customers type any of these keywords, this competitor will appear in page 1. So after that, we will do another calculation. We will use this as the numerator. So we're trying to get a ratio or a relationship or a percentage. And then for the denominator, we will do a count A. Drag it to the right. Change this into percentage for easier reading. And then we could do conditional formatting. We want to color it or to fill the green or the cells with green if it's true. Then we will add 2 more. Okay, so for the way for us to interpret these values is these competitors are difficult to target. So the red ones are difficult to target when it comes to this keyword. So we should expect to face stiff competition from these three. So from these three competitors, they are utilizing keywords that enable them to rank or appear in the first page. The yellow one is a medium competition, and the greens are easy competition. All right, so that is the interpretation of this calculation, or this is the rationale behind all of the calculations that we did. Now, Based from that, um, we can further filter it using the search volume. So as much as possible, we want a high search volume, not just relevant keywords for our product. We could do about 300 or more search volume. And then based on our analysis, and if we're doing a PPC or a manual campaign for our advertisements, we could do an analysis if these keywords are indeed relevant to our product. And we already determined that in terms of the search volume, they're already good. Now we just have to pick about 5 to 20 keywords that we could choose, and we could put it in our keyword chest. So we can paste, or we already pasted the highly relevant keywords in our keyword master list or keyword chest, and make sure that it's highly relevant to our product. So we need to do a little bit of determination or analysis. So for instance, suppose that we are only selling the original flavor Oreo cookies, and we have variation in terms of the size, but we don't have any variations in terms of the flavor. So don't choose the keywords that have a flavor variation in them. So for instance, we should delete this one. I should also delete this one and this one. So it would be dependent on your actual determination as the PPC specialist to know if all of the keywords that we were able to gather are relevant for our product. So we already deemed that they're good in terms of the search volume. The only thing that we have to determine is if they are indeed relevant to our product. So we need to analyze it. So suppose to say that let's assume that all of these are relevant to our product. The next thing that we could do is launch a manual campaign. So because our product is, let's say it's a newly launched product and we're trying to determine the good keywords that we could use for our campaigns, let's try to do that via bulk files. So I don't have any access to the advertising console or to the campaign manager. So the closest thing that I could do is to launch a keyword manual targeting campaign using an exact match type using bulk files. So we will do that. So I will do a demonstration on how to do that here. So this is a blank template for sponsored products bulk sheet file. So from the keywords that I was able to gather from my keyword research, these ones, I will do a manual campaign. I will launch it using a bulk file. So for the record type, you just need to type campaign. Now, I apologize, it would take some time. Now, for some clients, especially if you're under an advertising firm, they already have a macro for this one. So it will be easier for them. They don't have to do this manually. But for our purposes, I have to do this manually. So we would start filling in the various cells that I need to fill in. Otherwise, when we try to upload it in the advertising console, if there is any value that would not be permitted by Amazon, it would spit out an error and it will not let you launch the campaign. So we need to be very careful on the values that we will input on the bulk file. So under um, the second column, column B, record type, the first one or the first value that I need to input is campaign, and then I need to do an add group here. And then the actual ad or the actual SKU that we're trying to advertise. And then if it's a keyword targeting, depends on how many keywords you want under that campaign, under that specific ad group. And then under column D, campaign, we need to do our own naming convention. So let's say it's campaign sponsored products manual keyword exact. And then you need to drag it down because you need to tell Amazon that this ad group belongs to that campaign and this particular SKU or the one that is being advertised belong to that campaign, and the keyword targets that we have specified or specifying belong to that specific campaign. Now for the campaign daily budget, let's say we have about $100. Now for this one, it needs to be the date now or a future date. It cannot be a date like yesterday or a previous or already a past date. Amazon would not allow that. So let's say it's September 7, 21. Now the campaign end date is an optional field. You can elect not to put any value in here, but if you decided to put a value here and then you just have to extend the campaign end date if you don't want it to end. Now for the campaign targeting type, it should be manual. We don't need to put anything here. Now for the bidding strategy, it's dynamic bidding down only. If you have not specified any strategy in the cell, the default is dynamic bidding down only. For the placement type, the default is also all. Now next, for the ad group, we need to do our naming convention again. Let's say that it's group 1, and then you need to drag it down. And then on the ad group, you can specify the actual max bid. Let's say our max bid will be 20. All right. And then we also need to enable this one. Then we're gonna go back to our keyword chest. Then we need to specify the match type. It could either be broad, phrase, or exact. Because it's a newly launched product, it should be exact, and I will explain later why. Okay. And then if you want to place modifiers in order for us to be aggressive because it's a newly launched product, we can also do that. So we just need to insert about 3 rows here. We have top of search and product pages. And then if you want like to increase the modifiers, we could do from 0 to 900%. Let's say 100 for both the top of search and product pages. We could do that. So I guess we're good. And I'm just gonna explain the exact strategy for a newly launched product. So we have about one campaign. Let's say we have about one campaign and we want it to contain all of the seed keywords, right? Because it's a newly launched product. So what we're trying to do here is we are not trying, or we should refrain from launching an auto campaign because that would be disastrous for us. We still don't have any social proof. And when we say social proof, it involves or includes positive ratings and reviews. And without it, it would be difficult for us to even be considered by prospective buyers. So let's try to refrain from doing that at first. So the advice is, or the strategy is for us to launch a manual campaign, keyword targeting type. So based from our keyword research, we'll be able to gather the relevant keywords that we need. So we deem that they are highly searched or they have a high volume and are very relevant to our products. So we launch a manual campaign, and then after that, we can about allocate any budget as long as the client is comfortable with that budget. So it's a manual targeting campaign. And then since we want right away, we want to be seen on the top of search and product pages, we tried to place about a 100% in terms of the placement modifiers for the top of search and product pages. Now, for the actual bid, we can further specify that on the keyword level. So if you can see it on the advertising console, the suggested bid, because usually Amazon will indicate a suggested bid, we could be aggressive and multiply that by 2 or by 1.5, depending on our level of aggressiveness. So let's say Amazon is suggesting a 1 max bid for every keyword. Then we could do a $2 per keyword. Okay, so if you did not specify any max bid on the keyword level, then it will just default to the 20 that you specified on the ad group level. So that's about it for the bulk file. So once I am satisfied with this, I can just upload it to the campaign, to the advertising console, and let's try to see if there are any errors. It's common for, especially for newly launched products. We still don't have any data on some of the columns because it will be Amazon that will ascribe the data for these columns once we have uploaded it successfully in the advertising console. All right. So after that, the reason why we're doing a manual campaign again is we want to teach the algorithm of Amazon to properly categorize our products. And since we don't have any social proof yet, we don't have any positive ratings and reviews. So we are trying to gather as much as data as we can gather, and we are trying for our product or for our advertisement to be seen on the first page right away. That's why we're trying to be aggressive in terms of our bid, in terms of our campaign daily budget, and in terms of the placement modifiers. So let's say that we let it to run for about a week or 2 weeks, and then from there on, we can gather the data as long as there's already a good level of data. So after 2 weeks, we can download the customer search term report or the search term report, and we could do further analysis based on what happened with the campaigns that we had enabled. So again, I don't have any access to the Amazon advertising console. So this is a mock data again. So this is an example of a customer or a search term report. So what I will do is I could insert a pivot table, and then I could do my analysis based on the data that I'm seeing. So for instance, I want to know what customer search terms, specifically keywords. So we will filter that out first that have converted in the 2 week time frame that we have specified. So you drag or click the impressions, clicks, spend, sales, and other metrics that you deem that are important for your analysis. It will depend on the actual PPC manager on what metrics he or she would want to look at. But these are typically the ones that we need to look at. Okay, and then we could also insert calculated field for the ACOS. So don't use the ACOS field from the routers data. So if any column or if the formula or if the calculation for any of the column here is a ratio, do not use that because it would mess up your analysis. So let's try to do an insert calculated field. Okay, so you could see that some of here have errors because you don't have any orders. And if you will look at the formula for the cost, of course, it's spent over sales, uh, or spent over sales. I'm sorry, spent over, yes, spent over sales. So we don't have any sales here yet. All right, so it will be dependent on the actual PPC manager on how he or she would analyze the pivot table or the data that is in front of him or her. So for instance, if we want to focus on the keywords or the actual customer's terms, if there's something that we could see that we could either promote to any of the other match types, let's say for instance, it's under the broad type or it was captured by the broad type search term, then we could either probably graduate that to an exact or a phrase type, depending on the metrics that we will see. So first, what I would do is I would filter out the asins first, and I could also insert slicers. Then I would insert another one. So as you can see, there's only one portfolio for our search term report. And then I will try to do my analysis per campaign. So this is the campaign under this portfolio. So for instance, I already filtered out the asins, so we can focus on the actual keywords or the search terms that the customers use in searching for our product. And we could further do a filter. So let's say that if the particular client is sensitive to ACOS, or the client wants to know if you're already spending too much and we're not taking in any orders or not deriving any sales from that, then we can do that. So for instance, this one, this was actually from an auto campaign, for instance, and this is Nature Fresh. Now, we have several options on what to do with this one. So if the client is sensitive with the ACOS, for instance, if the client only wants about 20% ACOS, then what we could do is change it to a different match type. Like for instance, this is under auto, then we could launch a manual campaign. Like for instance, we could do a phrase or a broad match types. Take note that a particular keyword would have a different performance in different match types. So that is one thing to note. So that we could do that. So we could do a lot of analysis on this one. It would be dependent on the specification of the client. Um, and it will be dependent on the strategy of the PPC manager. So I will not be doing a deep dive on this one anymore. So this is just a sneak peek of what I can do as a PPC manager, and I hope that it is insightful and I was able to like showcase um, my potential um, when it comes to doing PPC analysis or PPC management. That's it. Thank you for listening.